Are Miami, Arizona State, and Ole Miss playoff contenders?
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Going to shift gears and talk about the newly released coaches poll, including 3 teams that I think are going to be very important for the college football playoff race. Talk about them from a recruiting standpoint, transfer portal, returning starters, schedule, a little bit of everything mixed into one. And those 3 teams are ones that you're probably pretty familiar with in terms of the recent polls that have come out. Not surprisingly here, we've got Arizona State, we've got Miami, we've got Ole Miss. Going to go over them and look at it from a different perspective than some others, because I'm really keen on how many players you take from the portal, how many players you have coming back at key spots, and how you got your players. So again, recruiting, transfer portal is going to be mixed into this all the way through. So let's get started. First team up, the Miami Hurricanes. In the coaches poll, they are number 10. Now, everybody's got their own opinion on polls and everything else. But if you're number 10, you're pretty good by any measurement. You're a top 10 team. Okay, that's fine. But at the same time, if you're top 10 and you're Miami and you lost the Heisman, you lost the first pick of the draft, you lost your stud slot receiver, Jacoby George as well, you lost key guys there, you lost tight ends. Those are some of the questions that many have, and I think those are important. But I have other questions about Miami that I want to discuss. Number one on this list is probably one that some people may not really understand. But if you look at Miami last year, while the offense was incredible, they had a quarterback that just came up with plays out of the blue. Avoid the rush, not necessarily run for a ton of yards, but he could go get you 5 to 10. But he just made crazy throws in clutch situations. Kim Ward was an amazing college football player, and Miami's going to miss him. Now they bring in Carson Beck, and I think he'll make it to the NFL. But that elbow injury is somebody who's been through like shoulder, elbow, been through some pain, and his wife playing sports too. I'm curious to see what he's like game to game and how he reacts to getting hit. That's my number one question for Miami. How does Carson Beck react after in live games he gets smacked? We're not going to know until he's actually in a game and we see it. But that's something I'm going to hold on. Number 2 on this list is the secondary still garbage. It can't be worse than it was last year. That's for sure. Because they would have 4 or 5 great plays in a row and then just completely bust. Miami's talent wasn't an issue. And I'm still baffled by how much talent they had. And yet at the same time, with many of the same defensive coaches, they went from having a pretty good secondary to just absolutely terrible. I don't understand it, but Miami has to fix that. O.J. Frederick, obviously they have players that have come in and transferred. Xavier Lucas, that whole saga with Wisconsin being another. They've got Damari Brown coming back. He's been banged up quite a bit of his first couple of years in Coral Gables. They need to figure out corner, but they got plenty of talent. And then at safety, they got some transfers. They got a couple holdovers. Can they figure it out and play with a congruency that makes their front 7 looks good? Because they oftentimes got pressure on the QB, got Wesley Basaint back. They've got some good players that have transferred in. You got Popo in the middle at linebacker. If you're a Miami fan, you know who that is. Young guy that's coming into his own. But they've got several good players, and Ruben Bain, obviously, up front. They should be in a situation where they can get pressure on the quarterback with 4. But can the back group cover without bust? That is my second question. Number 3, the new wide receivers are what? I don't know. Josiah Trader, we call him JoJo, really talented guy. They got Malachi. They got a bunch of younger players. But again, they lost a lot of talent. To me, the tight end room is also a big factor with that. Georgia used the tight ends a lot. Miami did too, but they lost key guys, multiple players. I need to see how that works out for third downs, that safety valve. for Carson Beck. Will it be there? I don't know. I'm just open-ended on how the wide receiver room is going to go. They got a couple key transfers, a kid from BYU. He's electric in the open field. Do they have congruency there as well? But now the good news, they've got a couple of things that I'm not sure people realize they're not getting enough credit for. Their running back room isn't just good, it's elite. Mark Fletcher, when he's healthy, that's 225 pounds. They can sink his hips, make a guy miss, or bowl a guy over. He can catch, he can block. And Jordan Weil is just as good. He's a little bit different player, a little smaller, but great balance after contact, plays well between the tackles, can catch, can block. He's another South Florida kid, just like Fletcher, really, really good. How will other teams handle them? And they've got a couple other guys on the depth chart too that would be major players at a lot of programs. They got to wait their turn at Miami. Their running back room's really good. And then the offensive line. Conservatively, it's top 10 nationally, but I think the question is, are they definitely a top 5 O-line? Francis Mauigoa, saw him again recently, 335 pounds of granite. That's a future first-round pick. They bring in some pretty good players. Over the last couple of years, they're starting to kind of come and get through the ranks. They should be good across the board. I don't know which guys for sure are going to start where, but Inez Cooper and Big Mauigoa on the right side, that's all I need to know. They got Bell on the left side. He's one of the biggest human beings in college football. He's actually bigger than Mauigoa. That could be one of the best units in college football, regardless of spot. That could carry them. It could be the reason they make it to the playoff. Second team I want to talk about, the Arizona State Sun Devils. Jordan Tyson's back. Unfortunately, he missed the playoff after being injured against Arizona last year. Deep threat, over 30 yards a catch on passes thrown, 20 yards or more in the air before it reached his hands. He's definitely a guy that makes a lot of big plays. And they also have Levitt back at quarterback. That 1-2 punch, 2 NFL players right there is helpful, but they've just got a ton of transfers. So I've got some questions there. Kind of like Miami, they got a few transfers, etc. At certain spots, but like their entire offense is pretty much transfers that are going to start. Is that going to formulate the right plan for them? I need to see it. Number 2, how about this? You've got Jordan Tyson as a guy that's a deep threat. Are they going to have somebody that can offset teams doubling him and disfavoring him in any way, shape, or form? If they don't, remember now, they don't have a Cam Scatterbo. That's going to be really hard to replace him. I know they got some good transfers, running backs and guys that coming back too. Their running back room's good, but you're not going to replace Cam with any number of players. That's a movement. Like he was the engine that ran Arizona State football last year. Then third, this is also a very important one. Being the hunted. Arizona State came out of nowhere. Nobody picked Arizona State to do anything. They were 16th in the media poll for the Big 12 last year. Okay, that's not exactly where you would want to be, but they finished number 1 after the Big 12 championship game. And again, if you look at them, they're number 11. They're right behind Miami in the poll. Are they truly a playoff contender? Yes, I think they are. Their schedule will have some pitfalls and some good and some bad. But I think you're looking at a team that has the ability to end up being in the playoff again. Wide receiver and quarterback are going to lead it. We'll see. As just a throw-in question here about Arizona State, how much congruency will the defense have, and will they be good enough in terms of those big games? Again, being the hunted, that's going to be a really tough question for them to answer. I'm curious to see how that goes. But when we come back, we're going to talk about the Ole Miss Rebels, then transition into the top 25 overall. Some questions about several of the teams. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. No matter what you're saving for, a good plan of action is having everything organized sensibly so you can be efficient with figuring out where your money's at and making the best decisions for you. With Monarch Money and their app, you can keep everything organized in one location. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. And now we're transitioning into all these different polls, all the different teams, and all the questions about them. I like to take it from a perspective of recruiting and NIL and transfer portal, how these rosters are constructed to figure out who really deserves to be ranked where. And we continue on that theme with Ole Miss. Two things right off the bat. They do it differently in terms of their roster management. They got 30 transfers. And number two, if you have not heard about Austin Simmons, you soon will. This kid they recruited out of high school down in South Florida, big time arm, was a lefty pitcher, could have went high in the draft, decided he wanted to go to Ole Miss. He's pitched a little, but now he's all in on the Rebels as a football player. The left-handed quarterback has a gun. He can throw in the mid-90s off the bump. But Austin Simmons is also very cerebral. He had a 5.0 GPA coming out of high school, graduated high school 2 years early. Like, he's not a normal human being. This is a kid that has a chance to be a special player in Lane Kiffin's system. So with that, is he still ready for prime time? Again, he graduated high school a couple years early. Is he really ready for the opportunity to be the quarterback at Ole Miss? I mean, the SEC is, as we all know, very unforgiving in terms of its schedule. And there's no easy way out. This is his third year on campus, but technically he should be a freshman in college. Even though he's advanced middle, is he ready for all the pressure if they start winning? They've got games at Georgia, at Oklahoma. They got LSU, Florida, and South Carolina at home. They've got the game against Mississippi State at the end of the year. That's a lot of pressure. So let's see how Austin Simmons delivers. They've got a plethora of wide receivers to throw to, and they got some pretty good running backs to get him the ball down the field, but that's still a lot of pressure. Next up, number two, besides the schedule itself, how do they handle the attrition of the schedule? It's a common theme in the SEC. You're going to get beat up even when you win games. They've recruited a lot better in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. And just to give you an example, Deshaun Womack, Xavier Harris, Jamarius Brown, Andrew Maddox, Will Eccles, Cam Franklin, Jeffrey Rush. Most of these guys came in through the high school ranks. Womack is a transfer, but most of the others are not. That's a really good sign. And then they've got the erasers, I like to call him. Centurion Perkins, maybe the best defensive player in the SEC. I think he should be up for SEC Player of the Year award. Really good pass rusher, but tracks things down as a will on 1st and 10. We'll see. The bigger question, and maybe the most important question about Ole Miss, the secondary. It is without question the biggest concern. Ricky Fletcher, Wyatt Williams, several other guys are going to get a chance, but they've had to patch it together some. You got to hope Sage Ryan, the transfer from LSU, is ready. And if he's not, what are they going to get? Is LSU going to have to win all shootouts? Because if you do, eventually you're going to trip up and you're probably going to get knocked out of the playoff race. But if that secondary does hold up, Ole Miss has a chance to be not only one of the better teams in the Southeastern Conference, they could be a top 5 team because I'm telling you, that offense is going to score. The O-line is pretty good. The D-line is a lot better than people know. And again, Austin Simmons has a lot of talent. They just got to make sure he's not put in too many difficult situations, especially early in the year as he adjusts to the starting role, and they'll be a team to watch out for. Now let's transition to the top 25 overall. I just want to make some, shall we say, general statements about the list of teams, the ranking. I mean, it's the coaches poll. You can take it with a grain of salt, but as they say, it's a lot of fun to go over this stuff and just think about it. So I'm just going to kind of go through the top 15 or so schools on this list, and you can rate it however you want. But starting at number 15 was Ole Miss. We'll go to 14, Michigan. Bryce Underwood, is he going to start from game one? The freshman quarterback that got paid over $10 million on his contract to go to UM? That's a lot of pressure for him too, talking about Simmons. I don't know what they're going to have at receiver for him to throw to, but their defense still should be pretty good. Their O-line should be pretty good. They got Justice Haynes coming in from Alabama as a transfer. I like Michigan. That game down in Norman week 2 is really important for them, but they haven't constructed a good enough roster through the high school recruiting ranks at wide receiver for me to feel all in on them being a playoff team. Next up, South Carolina. Lenora Sellers is a really talented football player, big guy that can run and throw. Do they have the pieces, though, on the other side of the ball to replace the defensive production up front? I don't think they will. They lost maybe the most productive defensive lineman they had to the National Football League. And now, kind of like Arizona State, they're the hunted. They were a team on the cusp of making the playoff. Does South Carolina end up being a team that falls back a little bit? I could see that, but I also understand that Sellers is probably going to take a step forward as a passer and understanding coverages. So one could probably argue it from either angle and make a pretty convincing statement either way. The biggest key for me, though, they're going to have to find a way to win a few more games that are higher scoring without the defensive production they had. Where does that come from? They've got plenty of talented receivers, guys that can really run. Are they going to get over the top, though? Are they really going to get over the top offensively, be able to throw from the pocket? I need to see that. Running back room, I need to see how the depth works out as well. When we come back, we're going to talk about Illinois. We're going to talk about LSU, Penn State, Notre Dame, and more. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor for your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. So whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this is a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days are on and off the course a little bit off for you, so sometimes you need a little extra boost. That's where this can come into play. What's the best shot you've ever made? Well, how about one where you had a lot of fun with your friends and you didn't even care and you knocked one in from the green, onto the green from, say, 80 feet and it rolled in? Well, maybe you didn't have the best day today and you want to get back to that. How about a 5-hour energy shot to get you back in the mood? Maybe you can make another one of those shots. Also, if you want to get this opportunity with 5-hour energy, you can go to 5hourenergy.com today and use the number 5hourenergy.com, and you can use promo code LOCKEDONGolf to get 20% off your order. This is only valid through September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-hour energy shots today. The Illinois Fighting Illini are one of the more intriguing teams to look at for this season. Luke Altmaier's back, but they lost not one, but a couple of pretty good receivers. Lost a running back that transferred over and is going to Georgia. They're not necessarily the hunted, but they were pretty good last season. How much can they keep climbing? Altmaier's more confident. He was very much so. At Big Ten Media Days, he admitted that he was a little timid when he first started learning the ropes at Illinois, and then it just got better and better and better. And we know that Brett Bielema is going to have a really good offensive line, and both their tackles, who were transfers, but transfers last year, returned to Champaign. They should be a very good football team in the trenches overall. Both those tackles, by the way, will probably play in the NFL. If they have the opportunity to stay in these close games, you got a graduate student as quarterback, you're good in the trenches, your defense is consistent. They got to find that receiver, though. That's the big question with Illinois. If they find that guy they can count on, or maybe it's a tight end, then Illinois can compete with anyone on a given Saturday. Next up on the list is another team that I think is kind of fun to really go into, and that's LSU. I've discussed them many times on this show, and again, like anybody else, you're going to have an opinion about this kind of team because their defense the last couple of years at LSU has been a little suspect. But you got Nussmeier back. You've got multiple running backs that can take it to the house. Dunham and some of these other guys are really good. But do you have the ability to stop people in critical situations? LSU is on that cusp for me. I could see them going 8-4. I could see them going 11-1. I really wouldn't want to predict because the defense has been a sieve from 2 years ago, and it got a little better last year, but they still had too many times where it was concerning. And I know they've got a bunch of new pieces in there. DJ Pickett comes in from Zephyr Hills High School in Ford. He's one of the most unique DBs I've ever seen. They've got all this talent. Will it work together in the back end? Kind of like with Miami. It's pretty much the same question to get over the top. And what I mean by that is, are they going to get enough big plays out of them without also having the bus to end up being a team that not only makes the playoff, but does something? I don't think anybody wants to face LSU's wide receivers, running backs, Trey'Dez Green, and all those talented tight ends and pass catchers. But they probably like the idea of figuring out LSU's back end until otherwise proven. They've got a lot of talent with Weeks and all these guys on defense, but can they play together? That's my question. Alabama, I'm just going to make one basic statement. LSU was 9, Bama's 8. If Ty Simpson figures it out, they're so good in the trenches, there's no excuse for Bama not to be a top 6 seed at the end of this regular season. Their schedule's difficult. They got to play at Auburn. They got to play at Georgia. They've got a tough slate. They got to play Florida State on the road game 1. I don't know how good Florida State's going to be, but their schedule is difficult. But if Alabama gets quarterback play, maybe it's not Ty Simpson, maybe it's somebody else. If they do, then that's a scenario where teams are going to have a hard time because their running back room's ridiculous. You got Ryan Williams. You have a plethora of guys on defense that have a lot of talent, like James Smith and Quay Russaw, former high school teammates at Montgomery Carver, now in Tuscaloosa. They've got Lawson at linebacker, a secondary that might be the best in the nation, certainly in the conversation. If quarterback works out, watch out for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Oregon, they had at number 7 in the coaches poll. And I actually just did a segment a little bit ago with Locked on Ducks and Spencer McLaughlin. And he said the biggest concern is Dante Moore. Now, I knew Dante a little bit from seeing him at Elite 11 a few years ago, and I think he's a great guy, and I think he has all the ability in the world. I thought he was the best prep player in the country coming out of high school, but he hasn't really played in over a year. How will he adjust? I'm not going to go deep into Oregon. I don't know them quite as well as some of these other teams because, quite honestly, I just expected them to be really, really good. These last few, it's just more a couple of questions. But if he is consistent, it's kind of like Ty Simpson in Alabama, really. If he is consistent, there's no reason Oregon can't be in the Big Ten title hunt in November. Now, they play at Penn State. I think it's game 4. But whatever week it is, even if they lose that, if they run the table, otherwise go 11-1, you're getting a top 8 seed in some capacity. Maybe it's the number 5 seed. I don't know. But you're going to be in the Big Ten title game to figure that part out. You'd feel pretty good. The back end of the secondary lost 6 guys in total. They're going to have to figure some of that out. Naeem Alford's a name to know, a big-time talented freshman that's out of Birmingham, Parker High School, part of a state title team last year. I think that Oregon, though, is going to be really, really good. You better beat them early. The back half of that schedule, after some of these younger guys really getting into the fold and feel comfortable, and they got Uyunglele as a pass rusher, plenty of talent on the offensive line. This is going to be a very dangerous team, and we know they got receivers. They got a ton of them. If you don't get them in the first 6 games, Oregon is going to be a very difficult out. Number 5 is Clemson. 2 simple points. They finally took some transfers. They took 4, including a big-bodied receiver to add to all that speed. They've got a ton of guys that can run. Do they have the ability to stay healthy at key spots? Obviously, can't lose Klubnik. The wide receiver room just got a little deeper, as I mentioned. But running back is the concern for me. They may have a freshman that ends up playing a lot, if not starting. That worries me. And I'm also curious about the secondary. There were some rumblings about things not going perfect, if you will, during spring ball. But like a lot of teams, there isn't a team on this list, even in the top 3, that doesn't have warts, Clemson included. If Clemson can figure it out in the secondary and they're fortunate enough to stay pretty healthy at running back, that's a big ask. That's a position that goes through a lot of attrition. If they can do that, they have a chance to be in the national championship. I really like Clemson a lot this year. I personally think they're one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the country. This poll, the coach's poll, has them at number 6, but whatever. Notre Dame, they've got at number 5. Same kind of deal as with Clemson. You got a few holes, but we'll see. I still think C.J. Carr will be the quarterback. They'll have a top 5 offensive line. Even though Jagusa is injured right now, they're still loaded. They will be fine. And I also think that their running back room, along with Penn State's, we'll talk about them in a second, is elite. If Notre Dame gets the production out of Fields, Malachi Fields transfers in for Virginia. He's a big guy, 6'4", 220. He was really successful with an offense that stunk by and large. And catching passes down the field, even though everybody knew he was going to get the ball. With Notre Dame having Jaden Greathouse, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, Aeneas Williams, all these different guys, Notre Dame's offense should be really dynamic. Just got to have some kind of consistency out of a new quarterback. And that's a big if. But if that happens, Notre Dame could very easily win it. And conservatively, they're a top 8 seed. We'll see. The quarterback situation leaves it in flux. Anywhere between number 1 and number 8 for me, I get it on the ranking for Notre Dame, but to me, they're definitely a top 8 team. Number 4 in Georgia, just like Notre Dame, Gunnar Stockton. Is the quarterback going to work out? The line play is surely going to be better. It was terrible last year on offense, only 125 yards a game. But Georgia's recruited so well on the offensive line in terms of the talent out of high school. Some of these guys just got to pan out. We're going to see. Linebackers, the deepest room in the country at that position. Defensive line's pretty close. We'll see. Secondary, now I know they lost some guys, but Georgia's totally loaded. I'm not concerned about them at all. I would say that the only question with their secondary is who plays where. They've got multiple guys that can play safety, nickel, etc. I'm not worried about Georgia. The only other thing that I'll add is do not sleep on their wide receiver room. It is revamped. It is bigger. It is faster. And it surely has better hands. We'll see. Running back room is very deep. I don't know if they're quite what Penn State or Notre Dame's is, but it's good. Tight end room should be pretty good too. It's probably not getting enough love. Penn State, the only real question I have is the defensive tackle depth. They didn't go out and get a portal guy. That surprised me. They bring in Pena from Penn State or from Syracuse to be the slot. They get Kyron Hudson from USC to be a receiver. They're going to be much, much better at receiver this year. But if they have injuries at D tackle, that could be a problem. I'm really all in on Drew Allar improving. I don't know if he'll be the guy in the playoff. We'll see. But if they're not a top 8 seed, it would be shocking. And it probably should be top 5. They get Oregon at home. I know they play at Ohio State, but that's the only game they won't be favored in. We'll see where Penn State finishes. But overall, I think that's a team that if they don't make it back to the Final Four, they would be very disappointed, and they probably should. Ohio State's number 2. Just going to make 2 comments on them. Jeremiah Smith, to me, is the most dynamic player in college football. Get him the ball, make it simple, screens, basic patterns, good things will happen. And then number 2, they lost their defensive line, but do not sleep on the group they have. They've got some really talented players coming in. They got Bo Atkinson and some other guys that transferred in. Not a ton of transfers, but they took the right amount. But this roster is loaded from the high school ranks. And of course, having Smith on offense means teams know they got to score to keep up with him. You're not going to beat Ohio State this season, or just about any for that matter, by scoring 10 points. You're going to have to win games against Ohio State in the 20s and 30s. The Michigan game last year was the aberration. I don't think that's going to happen. Michigan might beat them this year, but they're not going to beat them like 13-10 or whatever. Ohio State is going to score a lot of points. I know Julian Sayan's young. I know he's a new guy, kind of like with Carr, but he's throwing to multiple NFL receivers. Their tight end room is still very talented, and the O-line room is pretty good too. The coordinators are the bigger question. They got new guys, new defensive coordinator. They've got a new O-line coach too. That makes me a little nervous. I never know how that's going to go. But the talent for Ohio State, they probably have the deepest roster in the country. Finally, the University of Texas. Obviously, it's the Arch Manning era. Is he ready? They've got some really good receivers. They've got some really good running backs, including Cedric Baxter, a former 5-star that was injured last year, coming back. And they were good anyway. The guy they inserted in the lineup ends up running for 1,000 yards. But they also have start calling plays, too. They'll figure it out with those. Bigger concern, losing your left tackle. Defensive tackles are gone. They do have Malik Muhammad at corner. I love him as a player. He's great. They've got so many guys like Colin Simmons coming off the edge. They're going to be loaded. And if you have them ranked in the top 3 in your poll, like I do, I get it. I think Texas is one of those teams that's really fun to look at from a perspective of they could be so many different ways you could label them as dynamic. Rushing the passer. Arch is a really good runner. They've got multiple running backs. They got speed at receiver. They can throw the ball down the field. And their offensive line can mash you. That's just some of it. Oh, by the way, you got Malik Muhammad, who might be a first-round pick at corner. Really, really good. They've got a safety that was a walk-on that might end up being an All-American. They've got so many different things. The Texas Longhorns are a true national title threat. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. Wanted to have a little fun today with the poll coming out and just talking about it from a recruiting transfer perspective, because I think a lot of that really comes down to it. Who are the Jimmies and the Joes that are playing for these schools? And I wanted to give you as much information as I could. We will see you again soon here on the Portal Podcast.